Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. This one we're taking a look at my first thoughts lineup for week 5 of the NFL season on Draftkings. Now I've not done a ton of research on this slate. I kind of just skimmed this through, and this is the lineup I put together just that first reaction, first initial thoughts. So I'll go into like a deeper advanced statistics video tomorrow on my core plays, just after I've researched it enough. It's only Monday, so it's just my first looks. And before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you'd like access to any of my extra content, like the spreadsheets I build every single week, links in the description below for my Patreon. Anyway, let's get right into it. So I'm only going to talk about the guys that I'm going to put in my lineup, because I don't want to do a 15-minute video and just blabber on about stuff for the video and waste your guys' time, because I'll get into the deep stuff in the next video. But for right now, I'm looking at two guys for, this is going to be like a cash game lineup, I guess you can call it. So I'm liking Deshaun Watson at 6,700 versus Atlanta, and I'm liking Andy Dalton at 5,700 versus Arizona. So why do I like Deshaun Watson? Well, he's going up against Atlanta at home, who last season they got absolutely crushed by the quarterback position. They just gave up 24 points to Marcus Mariota, who's obviously not a very good quarterback, and that's not a good offense either. So this is a very winnable matchup for Deshaun Watson. He has a big ceiling, but he's also had 2 games of 12 points. But with the ceilings, he's got 31 points week 1, 29 points week 3. That's just what he does. He's got rushing upside too. He has 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, which obviously gives him a boost to his floor. And this is a very winnable matchup. This is the highest Vegas total on the slate, I believe, at 49. I know it's either them or the Cardinals game versus Cincinnati, but points should be scored. 2 bad defenses going at it. So points should be scored. You got Julio Jones on the other side. He's capable of big plays. We got DeAndre Hopkins here. Will Fuller. I think there can be a lot of big plays, a lot of points scored. Deshaun Watson should have a pretty big fantasy game. I think he can have a ceiling game of about 30 points here. And if he can connect with Fuller on these long bombs, we're in for a big day. So I do like Deshaun Watson, and also like Andy Dalton going up against the Arizona Cardinals, which don't have a defense right now. They just made Kyle Allen look like a Hall of Famer week 3. So yeah, he's really cheap. It's a Zach Taylor-led offense, so points, obviously, it's much better than a Marvin Lewis-led offense. But Andy Dalton's not been too bad. 25 points week 1, 22 points week 2, 18 points week 3 versus Buffalo. I will say he looks atrocious right now. I started recording this video at halftime, but then I messed up, so I had to restart. So I think Jalen Samuels just scored a touchdown, so that's the last thing I know. But as of right now, I know Andy Dalton is not having a very good game. But that can be fixed with the matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals. They just have not been good whatsoever this season. They don't have a defense. So at 5,700, he's in play. I usually do like using cheap quarterbacks in cash games because it allows us to spend up at the running back position and the wide receiver position. But in this lineup, I'm going to try to fit in Deshaun Watson. We'll see how it works out. But at the moment, let's go with Deshaun Watson at 6,700. And running backs, there's a ton of good running backs. You got McCaffrey. He's in a tough matchup versus Jacksonville. Alvin Kamara. Tampa Bay's been stingy versus running backs this season, but doesn't concern me with Alvin Kamara. He's arguably the best running back in the league. It's either him or McCaffrey, in my opinion. Sorry to all the Zeke lovers, but I really do think Kamara and McCaffrey are the 1A and 1B right now. Dalvin Cook's obviously elite, going against the New York Giants. I have no concerns whatsoever there. He had a tough matchup last week versus Chicago, but this is much easier versus the Giants. So I do like Dalvin Cook, but I like the guy that's right below him, Zeke Elliott, at 8,300, going up against the Green Bay Packers, who cannot cannot defend the run whatsoever this season. They're giving up the second most points per game to running backs at a 35.6 point clip per game, which is awful. And the Cowboys are home favorites. The Packers are without Devontae Adams, so I believe the Packers are going to try to keep this ball on the ground. They're going to want to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. I think this is a big game for Zeke. He should be able to. Tony Pollard is not a concern to me. He had 7 targets last week, 6 receptions. That's what we like to see. He really hasn't had that much targets so far this season. Finally got them. 7 targets, kind of like last year where he was just getting targets ever since they got Amari Cooper. Now, is he good on the ground? Not whatsoever. He had 18 rushing attempts for 35 yards, but it was a tough matchup versus New Orleans. This is a very easy matchup. I think we can have a Zeke ceiling game of 30 points here as long as he gets into the end zone 1 or 2 times. So I definitely like Zeke. I think he's going to be popular. He's only 8,300, so I do like the, I guess value. I mean, I think he could be the highest price running back this week. So 8,300, I will take the value there. Then next guy I want to play is David Johnson going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are allowing a ton of points to the running back position at 36.2 per game, which is second worst the 31st in points per game to the running back position, which means it's great for David Johnson. They cannot defend the run whatsoever. James Conner's having a great game. Jalen Samuels is doing good right now. They've just been killed every single week. Chris Carson, the 49ers running backs, even Frank Gore. David Johnson is heavily involved through the air. He has 7 targets week 1, 9 targets week 3, 11 targets last week, 99 yards through the air. He has 2 receiving touchdowns, also has a rushing touchdown on the season as well. I think he's one of the safest plays of the week, and at 7,500, I would take that all day. This should be a pretty fast-paced game. Because, the Cardinals run at an extremely high pace. This is the second highest Vegas total on the slate at 48. So, love David Johnson. He should have a ton of opportunity in this game. Should get you about 20 touches, and I would take that all day versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So, wide receiver. Wide receiver is tough this week. So, if I'm paying up for Zeke, Deshaun Watson, and David Johnson, I can't pay up for DeAndre Hopkins or Julio Jones. And I'm not too interested in Keenan Allen this week. Melvin Gordon's back. It's not the worst matchup versus Denver, but it's not the best either. I think Keenan Allen can handle his own, but I think I'm going to be off Keenan Allen this week, and I cannot afford Hopkins or Julio. I tried, but there's not enough value out there to do it this week. So I got a couple options. I can go down to Michael Thomas, who has a pretty good matchup versus Tampa. I'm not concerned with Teddy Bridgewater being the quarterback for him because he's been fine. He had 16 points week 3, 18 points week 2, 18 points last week versus Dallas. So he's fine. He's going to get all of his targets. He doesn't have the ceiling he has with Drew Brees at quarterback, but still he's been fine. And the price reflects that, only $6,600. So I do think there's value there. But in this lineup, we're going to go with Larry Fitzgerald. I just spit all over my computer. We're going to go with Larry Fitzgerald at $6K. Now, this is only if Christian Kirk is out. He's still in play if Christian Kirk is playing, but looks like Kirk might not play because he had a pretty bad ankle injury. So that's going to leave Larry Fitzgerald as just the guy there. And, he had a great start to the season. 28 points week 1, 18 week 2, 14 week 3. Tailed off last week versus the Seattle Seahawks, which was kind of odd. But he only had 9 points. But if there's no Kirk, he's going to see an increased target volume. So I think Larry Fitzgerald's a pretty safe play versus Cincy. Like I said, points should be scored in this game. It's 2 bad defenses. So definitely like Larry Fitzgerald. I like to plug him in there. Then the next guy is, now I don't love it, but Devontae Adams is not supposed to play. So I think that it's going to, well, I don't think it is. It's going to thrust MVS into just the number 1 role here. And he's not been terrible this season. He saw 6 targets week 1, 5 targets week 2, 10 targets week 3, 7 targets week 4. Now that's with Devontae Adams playing, the number 1 wide receiver. So you have to think MVS is probably going to see close, if not double-digit targets in this game. Now it's an extremely tough matchup versus Dallas. They are allowing the 4th least amount of points to wide receivers this season at 29.9 points per game. But the volume, the number 1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, I will take that all day. Now I'm not too excited about the matchup, but 5,600, don't hate it. Wide receiver 1 for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not in love with it. We'll see if things change throughout the week, but right now 5,600, I'll take a shot right there because he's got the big playability as well. And then the last wide receiver spot. So I like Deshaun Watson a lot, so that means I have to like some of his options, and I can't get DeAndre Hopkins, which scares me. So let's just go down to Will Fuller, 4,500. Now, I know he has not been great this season, but they're going to connect on a long ball eventually. Throughout his career, Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller, they connect on deep balls for touchdown a ton. It just hasn't happened this season, but I believe he's 15th in the league in air yards this season, so it's coming. Will Fuller breakout game is going to come at some point. He has not been terrible this season. 8.9 points week 1, 8 points week 2, 10 points week 3. Last week, not very good whatsoever. It was a really low-scoring game. But still, he's seen consistent targets, 3, 7, 7, 6. So points are going to be coming. It's a great matchup versus Atlanta. They're going to be worried about DeAndre Hopkins, so I think Will Fuller can get loose, hopefully catch a deep ball. Going to be pretty happy. So I do like the pairing here. And at 4,500, I think he's definitely worth a shot in a high-scoring game. Well, supposed to be a high-scoring game. And then to the tight end position, the first thing I did was look who is playing Arizona Cardinals, because we all know Arizona Cardinals cannot cover tight ends this season. After last week, they're allowing 29 points per game to the tight end position. I believe that's correct. I had it somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, 29.3 points per game, which is 8 more points than second place. So they're just getting absolutely shredded. Will Disley was great versus them. Greg Olsen, Mark Andrews, and then whoever it was week 1, I forget off the top of my head. But every single team is destroying them with tight ends. So I was looking. I didn't see him for a while, so I'm like, all right, we're going to get some value here, and we are. Tyler Eifert is only 3,300 going up against the Arizona Cardinals. I will take that all day. I know, he's not a great tight end. 7 points week 1, 9 points week 2, 2 points week 3. I don't know exactly how he's doing right now because I'm missing the game. Maybe he did something, but going up against the Arizona Cardinals, 3,300. I'm going to take that all day. He's probably going to be high owned because he's so cheap, but he's going to allow us to fit in some higher end guys like the 2 running backs I like, Zeke and David Johnson. So 3,300, I would take a shot versus an Arizona Cardinals defense that cannot guard the tight end position right now. So let's do our defense next. So actually, let's not do our defense next because that doesn't really make much sense. So flex, I already know my defense. It's the Panthers, so it's going to leave us about like 5,500 left. And I really didn't love any of the options. I'm not going to use Sony Michel. I mean, I'm just not going to do it. But Wayne Gallman, 5,400. Now, he has a tough matchup versus Minnesota, so I don't love that. But he's going to get us about 15 to 20 touches. He looked great last week. I know it was a really easy matchup versus the Redskins, but volume is king in fantasy. I know it's a bad matchup. I know Wayne Gallman's not that great. But still, if you're going to give me a guy that can see 7 targets and 18 carries for only 5,400, no matter who it is against the defense, I mean, it's not like the Minnesota Vikings are the best defense in the world, and the Giants are at home, so I do like that. 28 points last week, 5,400. I'll take the volume there. Again, not excited about this play, but volume is king in fantasy, so we're going to plug in Wayne Gallman. And then a defense that leaves us with 2,700 remaining. And I'm going to go back to the well with the Panthers. They have not been terrible this season. They're playing at home versus Jacksonville, which their offense does not scare me whatsoever. I know all the hype around Gardner Minshew. Fournette had a great game last week. DJ Chark's pretty good. But still, Panthers have not looked bad this season. 4 points versus the Los Angeles Rams. 6 points versus Tampa. 13 points versus Arizona. Their best game of the season was versus Houston, who's got a very respectable offense. I know the offensive line sucks, but Panthers are getting a ton of sacks. Well, 1 week 1 versus the Rams, 3 versus Tampa, but 8 versus Arizona, which I know they have a terrible offensive line, and 6 versus Houston, who also has a terrible offensive line. But they're getting to the quarterback. They're not allowing a ton of points. I know 30 versus the Rams will give them past there, 20, 10. I'll take that. They're not giving up a ton of yards whatsoever. So do like the Panthers at home versus Jacksonville. So that's going to leave us with Deshaun Watson, Zeke Elliott, David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, MVS, Will Fuller, Tyler Eifert, Wayne Gallman, and Panthers defense. Now, again, this is just on Monday night, so a lot of things can change heading into the week. And I'll do my core plays video tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. But that's just my first look thoughts. So anyway, hope this was helpful for you guys. If it was, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And I'll see you guys in the next video.